Penelope in Oklahoma has a question for Shannon. Thank you, Penelope, for hanging on.
Hi, Penelope.
Yeah. Hi. So first off, happy birthday.
Thank you. It's actually Tuesday. My birthday's Tuesday. But thank you.
Sorry, we're going to celebrate your birth for an entire week.
Okay, it's my birthday week. Starting right now.
Just for you, I'm going to have a drink for the show later.
Do it. What can I help you with, Penelope?
So I've seen some research that someone's spiritual health plays a factor into their overall health. And like, as an atheist, I'm like, okay, well, how does that apply to me? For me, I'm thinking that is probably from like one of two things: either how well you align with your personal moral code, which a lot of people, their spirituality is their moral code. Okay. Or is it like, because spirituality is some form of religion or spirituality is so prominent in society that those without a spirituality have a detriment to their health because of it, because they're not in the minority or they're not in the majority. I was wondering like what your take on this would be.
I think that you thought that through really, really well. That's what I think, Penelope. I would have to look at the study. First, I'd need to know how they were qualifying and quantifying metrics regarding spirituality, because a lot of times in psychological studies, like, they'll use a word like spirituality, which colloquially we would understand as relating to religion, but it may have other vectors that are incorporated into the concept of spirituality for the purpose of the study. So I would need to know how spirituality was defined and how they broke it down into individual metrics in order to measure, because they could have incorporated things like, do you meditate, which isn't necessarily a religious practice. It's a form of introspective practice that a lot of people engage in without religion, but they feel a connectivity to themselves and they view that as spiritual, for example. So doing things like that can increase your overall well-being and could be seen as spiritual for the purpose of metrics like these, but isn't actually spiritual in the sense that the broader society would understand spiritual. So in order to give you a really solid answer, I would need to actually look at the study. But I think that your 2 points are actually really good, because the idea that people deconverting or not seeing themselves as spiritual puts them at a detriment in, at least in North American societies for the most part. I think it's probably a little less in Europe. That could be a factor into well-being being decreased. Like people who are shunned, or are no longer who've lost wives, who have damaged relationships as a result, and they affiliate that mentally with their lack of spirituality now, would maybe slide down on the metrics of well-being. So I guess the best answer I can give you is I would need to see how they're qualifying those metrics. Does that make sense?
I'm going to jump in despite a complete lack of expertise.
Okay, do it. Let's go.
So everybody knows I despise the word spiritual because I find it to be a useless term that can mean almost anything to anybody. But when we're talking about people's spiritual health, in that sense, I think what they're talking about is what the patient views as their spiritual health. It's not like they're saying that there's something that is spiritual and real. It's this patient thinks that an important part of their life is their relationship with God, or their participation with their church, or all of these things that, their prayer time, and the things that they want to say is generally spiritual. And on that front, I think it's only important to the person as long as they're still in that mindset that this is something real and something important to their life. If you were just to do purely scientific based mental health care, you would still treat and try to deal with what that person thinks is important to them, even if it's fictional. And so on that front, while I'm not going to be somebody who's advocating for spiritual health, I understand there's a different context when you're sitting down with your psychologist or your psychiatrist, either one, who's going to have to be affirming and tailoring things to your life. And it may be that the thing that an individual is calling spiritual may or may not be harmful, but it's probably not best to just day one, hey, I don't care about your spiritual health, and I don't care what you talk about and say is your spiritual health. It's all a bunch of nonsense. That's probably not the best course of treatment.
No,
Right.
that's
That makes sense.
not.
All right. I'm
Does that help at all?
pretty new atheist, so I'm still kind of learning the ropes and everything and seeing what things I need to look out for and stuff like that. And so I really appreciate your guys' input. That means a lot.
Sure. Don't beat yourself up too much. You're asking good questions. You're thinking, you're concerned. And I have no fear that you're going to turn out to be an absolutely wonderful person and find your way through all this.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Penelope. We'll talk to you later.
See you later.